Rachel had just set her coffee on the table when her cat, Milo, climbed onto the couch beside it. He wasn't asking for breakfast. He wasn't asking for attention. He simply walked over, looked at the coaster, lifted one paw, and gave it the gentlest tap imaginable. The coaster slid toward the edge. Rachel reached for it. Too late. Clack. Straight onto the hardwood floor. Milo leaned over the edge, watched it land, then calmly looked back at Rachel like he'd just completed a very important assignment. If you've lived with a cat for more than a week, there's a good chance you've experienced something similar. A pen, your glasses, the TV remote, a plant that somehow survived 3 years. Until yesterday. Sometimes it almost feels personal, especially when your cat seems to make eye contact before doing it. Are they trying to annoy you, testing your patience? Or do they genuinely enjoy watching your blood pressure rise one object at a time? Not exactly, because this behavior usually has far less to do with rebellion than people imagine. In fact, once you understand what your cat is actually trying to accomplish, those dramatic little gravity experiments start looking very different. The surprising part? The object usually isn't the point at all, and neither is the crash. 1. Your cat may not be trying to break things. They're testing them. When people watch a cat slowly push something off a table, it can look completely intentional, almost like they've chosen chaos. But from your cat's perspective, that little paw tap is often just a way of gathering information. Cats explore with their paws, using sensitive paw pads to detect movement and texture. A single tap quickly answers a simple question. What happens if I touch this? A pen rolls, a bottle cap spins, a pair of glasses slides. Each object reacts differently, making the environment far more interesting than something sitting perfectly still. That's also why cats don't always chase the object after it falls. Sometimes they simply watch. The movement was the reward. The fall was the answer. Which brings us back to Milo. Rachel thought he was interested in the coaster. More likely, he was interested in what the coaster would do. And once something starts moving, a completely different instinct takes over. 2. Movement changes everything. Imagine you're watching birds outside. One suddenly takes off. Without thinking, your eyes follow it. Movement naturally grabs attention. For cats, that instinct is even stronger. Their vision evolved to notice tiny, unpredictable movement because that's how prey behaves. A pen rolls, a bottle cap spins, a charging cable swings. Those everyday objects briefly trigger the same instinct. Not because your cat thinks they're alive, but because they move. That's also why an ordinary bottle cap can be more exciting than an expensive toy sitting still. You may have noticed your cat bats something, waits, then bats it again. They're learning how it responds. Will it roll? Will it stop? That simple cycle of action and reaction is rewarding by itself. But movement doesn't explain everything. Sometimes your cat already knows exactly what will happen, and still reaches out with that same careful paw. So if it isn't the movement they're testing anymore, what are they watching instead? 3. Your cat might be watching you more than the object. A few minutes after the coaster hit the floor, Rachel put it back and returned to her emails. Milo wandered over again. Before he lifted a paw, he looked at Rachel. Many owners notice that moment. Sometimes the object isn't the real target. Cats are excellent at spotting patterns. If knocking something over makes you look up, walk over, or talk to them, they learn that their action changes the room. Just like they learn that opening a certain cabinet means treats, they connect actions with outcomes. That doesn't mean every falling object is about attention. But if it always happens when you're busy, your reaction may have become part of the routine. That's why scolding rarely works. To your cat, attention is still attention. So instead of asking, "Why did my cat do that?" try asking, "What usually happens after they do?" That simple question changes how the behavior looks. But attention still isn't the whole story. Because some objects seem irresistible, even when nobody's around to watch. 4. Sometimes they're just rearranging the furniture. Have you ever cleared a spot on the couch before sitting down? Moved a magazine, picked up a pillow, shifted the TV remote out of the way? Cats do something surprisingly similar, just with less concern about where the object lands. If a cat jumps onto a shelf and finds it cluttered, the easiest solution may be to move whatever's in the way. Unfortunately for us, their definition of move doesn't always stop at the edge. A pair of sunglasses, a stack of mail, a decorative figurine. From your cat's perspective, those aren't valuable possessions. They're obstacles. This is one reason cats sometimes push objects aside without showing any interest once they've fallen. The goal wasn't the object. The goal was the space. Owners often mistake this for random destruction because the result looks dramatic. But imagine trying to lie down on a bed covered in books. You'd clear the space first. Your cat simply has a much more efficient and considerably noisier method. That detail also explains why certain shelves become favorite targets while others are ignored. It isn't always about what's sitting there. It's about where your cat wants to be. And once you recognize that, another common misunderstanding starts making a lot more sense. Sometimes the object never mattered at all. 5. Your cat is learning the rules of your house. Every time your cat pushes something, they learn something. A bottle cap rolls, a pen slides. A phone falling brings a human running. Cats don't explore by asking questions. They explore by doing. One paw tap leads to another answer. That's why the same object often gets knocked over more than once. Not because your cat forgot, but because repeating the action confirms what happens. Over time, they learn what rolls, what wobbles, and what gets your attention. Rachel eventually noticed Milo wasn't swatting everything on the table, only the lightweight objects, the ones that moved in interesting ways. Once she saw that pattern, his behavior stopped looking random. It looked surprisingly consistent. And that changes how you respond. Instead of seeing a bad habit, you can recognize curiosity and give your cat safer things to investigate. Chances are you're already thinking of one particular incident. What's the strangest object your cat has decided absolutely belonged on the floor? Leave a comment and let us know. That question reminded Rachel of something she'd noticed only a few days later. 6. Your cat isn't trying to create chaos. They're trying to understand their world. A few evenings after the coaster incident, Rachel did something different. Instead of rushing over, she watched. Milo tapped a bottle cap. It spun. He watched it, gave it one more gentle tap, then walked away. No celebration, just quiet curiosity. That's when the whole interaction made sense. Milo wasn't trying to make a mess. He was exploring his environment the way cats naturally do. Testing, observing, learning. That doesn't mean you should leave fragile things on the edge of every shelf. But giving your cat safe objects to bat around, climbing spaces, and interactive play can satisfy that same curiosity without sacrificing your favorite mug. So remember the coaster from the beginning? Rachel thought Milo was trying to ruin her morning. More likely, he was simply curious about what would happen next. Sometimes the crash isn't the goal, it's just the answer. Well, I'm gonna go. My cat is staring at a roll of paper towels with the kind of focus that usually ends in me cleaning something up. FurEver.